Welcome back to Talking Beasts. I'm Glumpuddle.
And I'm Jim Fan.
And I'm Impending Doom.
And in this episode, ladies and gentlemen, we have a shoot date. We have a release date to talk about, finally. It's been quite a journey. Narnia is coming back to the big screen in approximately 676 days. We're going to be breaking all that down and then going down the rabbit hole of a puzzling quote from producer Amy Pascal about the movie being all about rock and roll. But first, our top story. We have a shoot date and a release date for Greta Gerwig's Narnia movie. Actually, I didn't warn you I was going to do this, but Impending Doom, you posted the story. Would you mind just kind of giving us a rundown of the major bombshell news that finally came out?
Yeah. Well, the major bombshell news dropped on January 16th or January 17th. I think it was at 1 o'clock in the morning, my time. But yeah, Puck News revealed that Netflix had told them that this is a done deal. Narnia is returning to the big screen Thanksgiving 2026 with IMAX exclusive release. We had been hearing about it for a few months now. Greta has been pushing for an IMAX experience. So yeah, that's kind of how it kind of came to be.
Yeah, so it's basically just, we pretty much already knew this was, they were trying to make it happen, and now it's official. So that means that of all the iterations, of all the attempts to make a fourth Narnia movie the past 14 years, this one has made it way further up the mountain than anyone else.
We actually have a release date, which is insane.
I say that just because I think it was in the Discord group. Twig said, I'm still like, I'll believe it when I see it a little bit.
I know.
But
we're so rusty at this.
Yeah.
It's been such a long time.
Oh my gosh. What put it in perspective for me was Rose Tree, who's been, such a critical part of the Narnia Web News team and all that she's done for, behind the scenes, the tech stuff and the writing and everything and Twitter. And she said, I've been news posting for 8 years now. And I realized she's been doing this 8 years and she's never covered a Narnia movie release before. Like, I've done this 3 times. So to me, this is just a weird long intermission. Real news postings about is going to finally start up again. But that put it in perspective for me. But of all the other attempts to make a fourth Narnia movie, this one has made it the furthest. I would argue I would argue the first one would have been immediately after John Treader came out. They tried to do Magician's Nephew. It didn't last very long. Petered out pretty quick. Then we had The Silver Chair, directed by Mark Johnston, screenwriter David McGee. Then Netflix came on the scene and hired Matthew Aldrich to be the creative architect, and that fizzled out. And now we have Greta Gerwig, and this, yes, shoot date of July. Amy Pascal revealed. So shooting this July, guys. In 6 months, they're going to be rolling cameras, apparently. Unbelievable to think that. Here we are, and I just can't wait to enjoy all this stuff with you guys. All the craziness of anticipating a Narnia movie feels like old times already.
I know. I feel so nostalgic. Like, even before we started recording, we're talking back like, back when this happened and back when that happened. And now, we get to do it again in a very different stage of life, different kind of movies, different... it's not Walden, so it's going to be a very different experience, but one that I hope is good.
Right.
I think a big win for the fan base out of this is that Netflix has committed to really actually publicize and market this movie along with IMAX. So I think that means from a fan perspective is we're going to get a trailer more than a few months out before the film release.
Because
Netflix marketing, it's like, who knows?
Well, because Netflix very often won't release, as far as marketing, won't release anything substantial until a month or two before. Which for me, who went on this journey 3 times with the Walden movies, that just seems unimaginable. Getting the theatrical release, even a limited one, means it's more likely that we'll see a more traditional marketing approach of the trailers several months out, or maybe pictures or artwork released or interviews, something more than nothing until a couple of months. That would be crazy. So I know I've said this 100 times, but the most important thing obviously is great movie, great adaptation. But either way, I'm so looking forward to the journey getting there with you guys. And to segue to my Discord group promo really quick, one of the ways I'm really looking forward to enjoying the movie with Narnia Webbers this time around is with our new Narnia Web chat group on Discord for our Patreon supporters for the $5 tier and up. And we're all in there. All three of us are in there. The news staff is in there. And it's a really fun way to interact with other Narnia Webbers, especially during breaking news, where you can share and get instant reactions to news. So I would love it if all of our listeners would join. It's also kind of a way to involve you, the listeners, in the news posting process a little bit. Recently, we posted a rumor in there that we're still investigating about the person we believe has been hired as the production designer for Greta Gerwig's Narnia. And we can't post anything public about it yet, but it's being discussed in the Discord group. So I'll link that in the description. I hope to see you all in there. I think that's where a lot of the back and forth interaction as we react to breaking news is going to be, just like the other day when this came out. And just getting those instant reactions was so much fun. So I think that pretty much covers reactions to, wow, we have a release date, we have a shooting date. That's unbelievable. Are we ready to go down the rabbit hole of the Amy Pascal quote?
I guess we have to.
Okay.
Wait, just for the sake of it, we gotta.
This was just before I leave for Christmas break. I'm tired. I got a newborn at home, and I'm ready to leave for Christmas break. And what drops? Just before? This was during an interview by Deadline with Narnia producer Amy Pascal, who worked with Gerwig on Little Women as well. And the interviewer asked her about Narnia. And let me just go ahead and roll that clip.
You're working on with Greta Gerwig.
With Greta
again.
Gerwig on Narnia.
Yeah.
And then I just made a movie with Noah Baumbach called Jay Kelly that we made for Netflix also.
Right.
Which is a great movie starring George Clooney and Adam Sandler.
Wow. And that's done?
It's done.
Wow. So
That comes out next year.
that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
And how's Narnia? Has she been shooting that already?
No, we start shooting in July.
I didn't think so. Yeah, because I talked to her. She got on a big award or something, and she was
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
it. But that's a new take on Narnia, or?
A very new take on Narnia. It's all about rock and roll.
Wow. Okay. How about Greta Gerwig?
How about Greta Gerwig?
I mean, look at her.
I love the interviewer's reaction to that. Probably about the same way we all reacted, except he had to kind of look like he was not going crazy in front of the camera, and he was just kind of like, wow, okay. Like, I think he was just like, okay, I don't think he knew any more than we do. I don't think he knew any more than us what on earth that meant. It was just like, okay, let's move on. But
I don't think, not to get too far into it, but I don't think Amy Pascal has any clue what she meant by that either.
Exactly. There you go. That's really the gist of it, if we're being very honest.
Well, let's go into that. Your guys' reactions. Let's start with you, Doom. Your reactions to Narnia being all about rock and roll, apparently. That's a first.
So the rock and roll comment in particular.
Let me just put it to you straight. Is Narnia gonna be a rock opera musical? Is that where we're going? Is this is Amy Pascal announcing it to the world? That's what we're doing.
The official reveal in a casual sit-down interview with Deadline. Yes, here it is. No, I don't think that's where it's going. I really think Pascal, this was a deliberate misdirection on her end to get people talking. Hollywood thrives on secrecy, keeping projects from the spotlight. I think this fits that strategy. Netflix and Narnia, I mean, we know this being on Narnia Web, but there seems to be a level of secrecy surrounding this movie that is maybe more than a typical movie.
We still don't know what book they're doing.
Exactly. We
What
have
the heck?
no idea.
It's just Narnia.
But that's why I feel like Amy Pascal, like this was a mistake on her end to say this. I think she was just trying to cause a stir online, but in doing so, because we know
She
so
succeeded.
little, yeah, and because we know so little about the project, it just feels like a careless way to describe it when there's a lot of people who are still concerned and worried about the adaptation. So I think this was a miscalculation, because I honestly don't think she meant anything by it. But the reaction that this caused online was huge.
Which
And
I
it
think
was
way out of
ultimately nothing.
proportion. I think, yeah, way out of proportion. I think. But I will say, Doom, like you're saying, that like you've observed, okay, there seems to be a lot of secrecy about this project, and you're also downplaying the rock and roll bit here, like whatever, it's nothing. But why should they be so secret? Like to not even know something as simple as which book they're adapting. Well, why should they be so secret? Maybe there's somebody listening now going, I'll tell you why they're being so secretive, because they're making a rock opera musical of it, and they want to be very careful how they tell people that. And obviously, Amy wasn't very careful about that. But I can see people listening to this going, why does it have to be a big secret? We're doing Magician's Nephew, or we're doing Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. And is it, unless they're doing something really, really out there? And I think that probably explains some of the sensitivity and overreaction to this quote that we're seeing, because people are we know so very, very little about it, and why should they be so secretive? And there's some inherent people being suspicious right there that maybe is somewhat justified. Yeah, okay, so impending doom is not predicting doom at this point. How about you, Jim Fan? Rock opera musical, yay or nay?
Definitely not. I would disagree in that I think it was meant to be anything deliberate. I honestly just think she was just being funny. I mean, if you watch it in the video, to me, the body language reads like she's not being serious. So that's kind of how I took it.
It was at the very least, it was very flippant.
Yeah, very flippant, not serious. So to me, I read the quote and then I watched the clip and I was like, I don't really take that to mean anything.
That's probably where a lot of the overreaction is coming from, is people are reading it instead of watching it. So you miss that flippant tone.
That's my opinion. So
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about there being any kind of musical. No.
Right.
And
Okay.
that-
I mean,
that seems-
I could imagine if it was announced Greta Gerwig was doing a Narnia musical, that would be surprising, not shocking, I would say. But a rock opera is like, okay, what are we doing right now? All right. Sorry, Doom.
Yeah, well, in the forums, it seems the most popular theory as to what Pascal was getting at was that it was like a sarcastic joke to the interviewer's question. And the second one is, I think, probably believable as well, is that she was thinking of the phrase ready to roll or ready to rock and roll, describing like we're getting ready to film.
Yeah.
So I think that's a plausible theory, but those were kind of the two main ones in the forums being discussed.
Yeah, the thing about it being a joke is, well, what's the joke? Like, why is saying it's about rock and roll, like, why is that a joke?
She's old.
There you go. So I would say, basically, the way I would summarize my reaction to this, having had a month to process this, I think the accurate transcription of this quote would be a very new take, semicolon, it's all about rock and roll. In other words, like saying it's all about rock and roll is like, oh yeah, it's new take, rock and roll, baby. Like Greta Gerwig's coming in and doing her Greta Gerwig thing. I think she was, because the interviewer says, so it's a new take on Narnia? And she goes, oh yeah, very new take. It's all about rock and roll. So she was jokingly, I think she was jokingly, or had a jokey spirit, expressing the idea that Greta Gerwig's coming in there and it's gonna be her vision, you know, and she's gonna be taking control and putting her spin on Narnia. And I think that was, I think that's what she was trying to express. Yeah, it just came out weird. And I wish the interviewer had said, I'm sorry, what? But it's the kind of interviewer, it's the kind of interview where it's awkward to not just say things that are 100% pleasant, basically. So,
and also like the embargo, I'm sure.
She's a producer.
Getting more information about this, it was probably very, like, we're not talking about a lot of details.
Yeah.
So there's probably, it's not an invitation to ask for clarification.
Right. And she's definitely, I was talking to my sister about this over the holidays, but she was like, oh, she's totally deflecting, was my sister's reaction. The main thing, and you see there's a few times leading up to when he asks the question, where he goes, so basically kind of says, so Narnia, and she's like, yeah, Narnia, and then she tries to go off in a different direction away from Narnia. but he kind of pushes her. So finally she says, it's all about rock and roll. And that kind of shuts him down. He's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay. So I think this was her. Yeah, she was clearly not wanting to talk about it. You mentioned the apparent secrecy but behind this project. Well, obviously the in general secrecy is completely understood, but it does seem like, is there a little bit more than normal on this project? So she kept trying to deflect, and the rock and roll was like just a way to give him something. I don't know. Whatever. It came out weird.
The first part of what she says, I would say, is the more believable part, where she says it's a very new take, which I do believe we're going to get a new take on Narnia. Obviously, it's not like her response to that question, is it going to be a new take on Narnia? Her only response is yes, it's going to be a new take. Like, she can't say, oh no, we're just doing the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Oh yeah, we're just gonna copy paste
old.
everything you've already seen. Like, even whether that was true or not, she would never say that.
Shut down immediately. Like, no one's interested in that.
She was led into, like, she only had one response to it. But I do think we're going to get some sort of, there's something else to this project. Maybe it's a combination of books as one film, or maybe a part 1, part 2. But I don't think it's going to be straight.
Something beyond something beyond a straightforward 7-book series. Or what you would expect. I do sense there's a curveball in here somewhere. I suspect if frankly a lot of listeners, a lot of Narnia Webbers, completely understandably, if all you're looking for is, I read the book, now I want to see the movie. I think this one is
I don't
probably
think this
not
one's going to be for you.
It's probably not for you, for better or worse. It might not be my first choice of adaptation, but I'm still looking forward to seeing someone else's stamp, someone else's take on it. I mean, I am not turned off by Greta Gerwig's got a new take on Narnia, but many of our listeners would be, and I completely that's not my reaction, but I completely understand that at the same time. And it could be my reaction to the movie will be, hey, that was a great movie, I enjoyed seeing that, but I would have preferred a more traditional, more straightforward take on these books that I love. We'll see.
Optimistic until proven otherwise, people.
Oh, that's our motto. We got Glumpuddle and impending doom here. That's exactly how we feel.
That's my motto. That's what I'm here for. That's why they keep me around.
I do think Greta Gerwig has earned a little bit of optimism for her project, just the way she's talked about the reverence she has for the source material, collaborating with C.S. Lewis. I do think she's earned some goodwill from the fan base.
She certainly, for what it's worth, she's saying the right things at this stage for whatever it's worth.
Yeah,
and that may not mean anything, but for now, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the track record so far is, I've seen one book adaptation that she's done. It was a new take, and it was an incredible adaptation, in my opinion. So if we can get that in Narnia, I will be happy.
That's what, I don't know if you saw, but Dr.
We're talking about Little Women, by the way.
Yes. Dr. Ward, the author of Planet Narnia. I saw him speak recently, and he mentioned that he loved Little Women, and if Gerwig can do for Narnia what she did for Little Women, that he would be totally on board with that. But I should acknowledge, it's a pretty polarizing adaptation. There are those that really love it, and there are those that really, really hated that. And I'll probably have you back, Jim Fan, to break down Little Women.
We haven't done that yet. I feel like we've talked about it so much.
We've talked about it so much,
but
never recording.
Schedule it. I will do it, because I have a lot of strong opinions about this. So.
Okay, maybe next season we'll do that, and get into Little Women, and also what the implications might be for Narnia. But so that's our reactions. Let me get into that Discord group that I was just talking about. We got some comments in there, people reacting to this quote from Amy Pascal, Narnia being about rock and roll. We had a quote from Lucille in the Discord group, where she linked a Reddit thread that speculated maybe this is a hint about the way Uncle Andrew is going to look in the movie. He's going to have kind of a rock and roll appearance. He's got kind of a crazy look, sure. Right? Let's go with that. Maybe this is really telling us something. I don't know. My personal favorite, I think I really liked what Wrightian said. She said, yeah, it sounds to me like it was a joke, or maybe I'm just hoping it is. And Twigs said, "It sounded like a joke, but I would rather have the tone be much clearer," which, yeah, we can all relate to that. Could you just be clear what you're talking about? And then I kind of said my thing to Twigs about, well, like, if it was real, what would that even mean? Narnia is going to be about rock and roll. What would that actually look like? And Twigs replied, I don't even want to try to question or I don't even want to try to speculate because what we come up with might come true. And of course, if you've been around Narnia Web long enough, this, yeah. Apologies once again for, if Rillian was here, I'm sure he would apologize once again for having the idea for the Caspian Susan romance in an April Fool's joke before the movie came out. But so I can understand the reluctance there. But I also loved what Rose Tree posted in the Discord group. She reminded me of a quote from Douglas Gresham in January 2020, where Douglas Gresham was saying, I'm not really sure what the timeline is on the Netflix movie. And he wrote, I don't know whether, and Douglas Gresham said, I don't know whether Netflix is ready to rock and roll on this or not. It's like
this has been years in the making. Years in the making.
It's like they're trying to toy with us sometimes, isn't it? Speaking of Douglas Gresham, this whole fiasco kind of reminds me of. Do you remember the global warming quote, Jim Fan? Was that your time?
Yeah.
It might have been a little before your time on the podcast. But
maybe
we asked Douglas Gresham about. Hey, we're hearing rumors about. Narnia Web asked Douglas Gresham. We're hearing rumors about. There's going to be a Caspian Susan romance in Prince Caspian.
Oh, yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, and he replied, if I were you, I would worry more about global warming, which did precisely nothing to calm everyone down, because it was like, does he mean we should be worried or we shouldn't be worried? What does he mean about that? Anyway, so, wow, that brings me back, and I'm so excited to do all of this again. And the fact that we have a probably meaningless quote to devote half an episode to is like, okay, I think we're back. I think we're back.
Guess who's back?
The old days are back. So guys, to you and to everyone listening and to everyone on Discord, thank you for overanalyzing this stuff with me. I am so ready to rock and roll with you guys for the next approximately 676 days. I don't think it'll be I should say I don't think it'll be exactly Thanksgiving Day. My guess is it'll be a few days before. I think Wicked released almost a week before Thanksgiving Day, so probably be something like that. But for now, I just have the countdown set to 706. I just have it set to Thanksgiving Day for now, so 676 days to go. But I love one of the first quotes on the news post in Pending Doom. Sylvia wrote, "Is it too early to start lining up?" Because
lioning up, remember?
That's right.
Lion parties.
Lion parties. Now here's the thing about lines. Reserved seating is quite common now, so my guess is there won't really be a line.
We'll figure out what
Bummer.
the 2026 version of that is.
We're gonna line up, even though we have reserved seating. Just to spite the movie theaters, we're still gonna line up anyway.
Parties or whatever. I don't know. We'll figure out something fun.
All right, let's. Almost 2 years to go. Rock and roll further up and further in.